Good evening, afternoon, or morning, everyone. We are back with the hardware, Jackson and I, and again, we're back. The All-Star games are not over yet. We got about 2 more weeks of All-Star games. Well, 4 more weeks, I guess, till the last All-Star game ends, but 2 more weeks of All-Star games to cover. And this week we have sort of a newer All-Star game on the scene, the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, which has been largely based out of Los Angeles. It's been played at the LA Galaxy Stadium. I forget what it's called. I think it's like the StubHub Center now or whatever it's called. And now it's at the Rose Bowl. Just a great experience for a lot of college players to play and, college football's most fabled venue. So, Jackson, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Hey, maybe next year it'll be in SoFi, right? Right after the national championship. Probably not, but one can dream. NFL Collegiate Bowl, as you said, NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, one of the newer ones on the scene. So think Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, obviously being one of the oldest ones, and this is one of the newer ones. But man, that's not to say that there's a lot of talent in this one. Definitely some more guys that are probably going to get more NFL contracts than the two All-Star games we covered last week, for sure. And Omar being so humble and that you are actually credentialed, right, for this game.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention it, but I'm excited.
Well, come on, man. Come on. You're credentialed.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, hey, they were letting anyone get credentials because they issued 1,356 credentials for this game. So if you had a small time blog like I do, then and you applied, then you most likely got it. And I was quite surprised I got it.
Thank you, all 5 of you, for making sure that Omar had the validity to go into the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. So, yeah, man. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. As we start every All-Star game off, a little bit about the bowl. Omar started off, obviously, that it is in Los Angeles, this time in the Rose Bowl. Marvin Lewis is going to be the head coach of one of the teams. You might remember him as this longtime Cincinnati Bengals head coach. Was there for, I believe, 15 or 16 years. So that in Cincinnati for a while. Jeff Fisher will be on the other side of the sidelines, the longtime Los Angeles Rams head coach before Sean McVay. A little bit about this. So Marvin Lewis actually coached in last year's game, won 30-20, and was on the winning side. And Marvin Lewis also has a 3-2 record versus Jeff Fisher as head coaches when they were at the Bengals and Rams, respectively. So a little bit about them, a little bit about the coaching staffs. Obviously, these are two long tenured and therefore successful head coaches in the NFL, right? So it'll be awesome to see them working with some of these guys.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, and there's also, in terms, I guess, on the coaching staffs or in terms of mentorship this week, following the NFLPA Bowl, you see some older NFL players from the past, like Anthony Becht, the guy who does color with, I think he was teamed up with either Beth Mowins or, I forget, or Clay Matvick, but Anthony Becht, the color commentator, former tight end, out there giving pointers out to the tight ends in this game. You also have Jeff Blake from the 90s. If you remember, if you're a diehard Bengals fan, a long-suffering Bengals fan, you remember Jeff Blake, who, to this date has one of the prettiest deep balls of all time. Highly regarded deep ball, and a one-time Pro Bowler in 95. Like, you got a guy like that who's been around the block. So that's just a great thing about the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl that, that I guess all these bowls offer, with like the older coaching staffs. People have been around the block and they know what it takes. So it's just great to see. You never know who you see turn up at, the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl.
If I remember correctly, there is there are tons of meetings as well. Guys, because the NFLPA, a lot of people think of them going head to head with the league in a lot of ways. And ideally, it's not always that way, right? But there are a lot of things that the NFLPA offers. That's why they're there as the Players Association, to help out players and represent the players and a lot of issues. So it'll be awesome for these guys that are young and not going to be probably highly prioritized coming out of the draft, that they can learn a little bit about this directly from the NFLPA is what we're hoping. So I'm sure JC Tretter and a bunch of others will be there as well, just to kind of, show them the ropes of what it's like being a player in the National Football League.
Yeah, I guess before we start with our players to watch, JC Tretter, a graduate of Columbia. So glad you mentioned his name, NFLPA president, I think. I guess you implied that, yeah. So yeah, no, just the Ivy League graduate there. So just want to mention that.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously smart dude coming from the Ivy League and being one of the heads of representing the Players Association for sure. So yeah, we'll go ahead and as we usually do, get into our players to watch. Omar, I'll go ahead and let you take the lead on this one. I think we're both starting with the quarterback, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got a really interesting quarterback group with this bowl game. Like honestly, like in terms of bowl games, like when you look at the Hula Bowl, even the Tropical Bowl, even the Tropical Bowl focus more on like smaller, I guess, yeah, smaller time players, you know. It's like I remember this guy from college. Like my first guy, Chase Garber's out of Cal. And I'm sure, and if any of you guys followed college football in 2019, you remember Cal bursting on the scene, starting 4-0. And then they kind of faded away down the stretch. But the foundation was there. I mean, Justin Wilcox is doing a very solid job there in California, and Garbers is our quarterback. And honestly, watching Garbers highlight reel, really interesting prospect. I mean, of course, Cal, you remember Jared Goff, but I mean, Garbers isn't exactly as highly regarded as Jared Goff. He's got very nice touch on his passes. I love his release. It looks so effortless. The passes have such great touch, but then again, arm strength is a problem when you have a passer like that. His running game is he's got great mobility. Honestly, he's not afraid to step up in the middle, not even get to the edge, step up in the middle, shed off some tacklers, and just, you know, he doesn't look fast on the film, but he's got great running ability. He's at 400 yards in 2 separate seasons, and honestly, I think he's done a great job starting a quarterback for Cal. I mean, especially getting up to number 15 in 2019 and then, you know, winning a couple bowls there for Cal. So I like Garbers a lot. You know, we'll see what he does out there in Los Angeles, but that's a prospect to watch. I'm sure a guy that a lot of people remember.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be awesome to watch watch Garbers go out there and hopefully make a good impression. Quarterbacks, it's always tough because you only get so, I'm sure you're on a snap count, right? Or maybe a drive count, because there are a lot of guys to rotate in that teams want to get a look at. Wouldn't be surprised if Garbers was maybe picked up and as an undrafted free agent, maybe to on a San Francisco or someone like that doesn't want to miss out on a Cal quarterback. So yeah, that'll be awesome to see.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned San Francisco. I wonder how much, I guess, ticket sales goes into effect for the preseason, because preseason football doesn't really sell, obviously. So I mean, I wonder like if it's a boost to get a local guy like Chase Garbers, who you know, not only played at Cal but won the 2019 Red Box Bowl in that very stadium. You know, so it's a very interesting thing you brought that up, Jackson.
I was just saying because they did miss out on maybe a local product, maybe a decade and a half or so ago.
Okay, that's where you're going. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, when do the Buccaneers play next week or this Sunday?
Okay, man. Fair enough. You did beat Aaron Rodgers, so it all worked out. Just you mentioned a few times how much you hated that storyline. I just had to sneak it in there.
So. I already forgot, Jackson. I already forgot.
Yeah, man. I'll go ahead and go with my first guy. Also happens to be a quarterback. Chris Oladokun, the quarterback from San Diego, or from the SDSU that you know, we've talked about a few times on here. He's made a really strong impression with his arm strength, accuracy, and mobility, is what I read in one report coming out of the Collegiate Bowl practices. He's already met with almost 2/3 of the teams. He's met with 20 out of 32. Honestly, I'm looking for him to be one of the first quarterback UDFA signed, if not drafted, on day 3. He does lack some size at 6'1", 207, but since, I mean, there's so many guys that lack size. This is not the, you know, main concern. I'm just saying he lacks size, and he's also not Kyler Murray. That's all I'm trying to get at with that. So hopefully Chris can really make a great impression this week. He already has in practice, and hey, hopefully show that he can perform in games as well.
Yeah, I mean, so Oladokun's well-traveled, so that might be a concern too. I mean, I guess looking at like, hey, why couldn't he win the starting job at South Florida, or why couldn't he beat out Liam Welch, who's a great quarterback in his own right for Sanford? But of course, I mean, he beat out Mark Gronowski, star of the spring for South Dakota State. Had a great year.
We talked about Gronowski so much in the spring season. Like, I mean, that's a feat to be mentioned.
Yeah, I think they just redshirted him too, which is a smart strategy for South Dakota State, just to redshirt him. I mean, when you have quarterback depth. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see what Oladokin can do. I mean, that's what it's all about. With guys like Oladokin and like my next two quarterbacks who I'm going to mention, but like in terms of having those guys, the FCS or lower level, play against like that better competition and really see, I guess, what I mean, what they got. I guess that's a smooth transition to like my next two quarterbacks, which I'll group them together too, because nothing but great FCS quarterbacks here. So we got Davis Cheek out of Elon. He was a later addition. I don't remember seeing him on Twitter, but looking at his tape for Elon out of the Colonial Athletic Association, he's fun to watch. I mean, he stands in the pocket very well, reads through his progressions great. I mean, he had a good line and read through his progressions well. And then even then when, he was flushed out of the pocket, he's not afraid to step up. He's got good movement. He can juke out a defender, sidestep a defender well, and he's got great ball placement. Like you can see it in his stats too, like that the ball placement is there. Like he only had 5 picks this year for Elon. So Davis Cheek's a prospect I like out of Elon. We got, I think Jackson likes this guy a lot. Zarek Cooper out of Jacksonville State threw the Hail Mary against Florida State. Just a strong guy, Clemson transfer. So, he's got the pedigree. He's calm and collective under pressure. I'm quoting the scouting report I found in Sports Illustrated. He has mobility too. He makes good off-platform throws, can dip his arm angle. And they want to see better progression through his reads before he tucks and runs. But again, tucking and running isn't a problem with him because he had 900 rush yards, 20 touchdowns to go with over 9,800 passing yards and 76 touchdowns in his passing career for the Gamecocks of Jacksonville State. So 2 lower division quarterbacks, or 2 FCS quarterbacks. I shouldn't say lower division. That's an insult, because 2 FCS quarterbacks that, will have a chance to show what they got, honestly, in a pro scheme.
Absolutely. And like you said, maybe the best thing on his resume is that he beat 5 and 7U.
Geez, 5 and 7U. That's a good one. That one beats Free Shoes University. That's a good one, Jackson. Man, you're getting better with the jokes, man. I mean, Georgia wins a national title. You like direct your attention to the other Florida schools. I like it.
Yeah. Again, I have to go somewhere with it, right? Because no more 1980 jokes, and you're gonna hate me. It's not even the season yet. Well, not the season anymore. If I do Army jokes, so I got to go after someone, man.
Well, you mentioned Army, and Army does have a player, which I mean we'll talk about at the end. But yeah, who do you have as your next quarterback, Jackson?
I have Akil Glass, which I'm shocked that you didn't take Akil on this one. I'm curious to see what he'll weigh in at, actually, because he has a really lanky build. Hard not to be lanky when you're 6'5", but hopefully he can improve some accuracy and some.
See, it's fitting, Jackson. It's fitting that the dogs start barking, because he's Alabama A&M Bulldog, so it's fitting that they start barking. But yeah, I mean, so I didn't pick Glass because Glass is playing in the HBCU Legacy Bowl, so I kind of wanted to save, I guess, discussion for that too. But again, that's like a recurring theme with like guys double dipping too. I mean, because he'll have the look. So I guess the HBCU Legacy Bowl is more focused for like guys that wouldn't get an all-star look at all. But Akil Glass, ever since like the spring, I guess his coming out party, like people on the FCS level and the HBCU sort of circles knew that Akil Glass had what it takes, had what it takes in like 2018, 2019. But his coming out party was in the spring against Jackson State when he threw 7 touchdowns and had 440 yards in that shootout in the spring. Like people started to know like Akil Glass is the man. But I mean, he's got all the tools. It just comes down to reps, honestly, because the last time an HBCU quarterback was in the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, Amir Hall out of Bowie State, who's a power out of the CIAA in Division II, he ended up staying for 1 or 2 drives. I think it was 1 drive, and it was a long clock-consuming drive where they just ran the ball. And Amir Hall just had 1 pass throw, and it was batted down the line of scrimmage. So what good did that do for his pro resume? So it just comes down to reps, and I hope Glass gets a good amount of reps in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure what the practice reps are, the number that he's had this week in practices. Hopefully it's a pretty good number. Cronky is absolutely ecstatic, my dog, about Akil Glass. I know he can't wait to watch Akil Saturday, judging from his level of barking, but man, yeah, looking forward to seeing Akil play a really strong game, hopefully. And I did watch a little bit tape on him before this. Now, most of it was from the 2018 season. It's a little bit hard to find. So definitely improved since then. Best off of play action pass percentage. He has a high percentage. It's padded a lot by some screens. Hopefully a few less screens. Hopefully some anticipatory and some great reads.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he had a great receiving core at Alabama A&M too, but I mean, not discounting. He's got all the tools. He's got the mobility. The rushing stats don't show, but he's got. I mean, he can move around in the pocket, move up as well. So I'm excited to see Glass play at the Rose Bowl.
Also, shout out to friend of the podcast, Connor McQuiston. That every time I see an outside wide receiver screen, I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, stop it!" So.
I mean, that's a great segue, Jackson, for I guess the beginning of our discussion with double dippers too, because we have two quarterbacks playing their second All-Star game, and Connor was kind enough to provide us with the box scores of the game. So just the last two quarterbacks on the roster are Cole Kelly, who we've talked about a lot in the spring, great size. There was a scout too. I forget his name. Emery, I think it's Emery Hunt, F-ball gameplay, and he does color commentary for FCS game, excuse me. He said that Cole Kelly with like physique and just movement looks like Josh Allen this week. So hopefully he's got like the sort of post-game or postseason rustiness out that he had in the Hula Bowl when he only went 2 for 5 for 5 yards, had a 3-yard carry. But we'll see with Cole Kelly. I mean, the ceiling's high for him too. And I mean, after the divisional playoff game, Chiefs Bills, like who wouldn't want a Josh Allen? Who wouldn't want a guy like that? Another double dipper quarterback and the last quarterback on both rosters is Brandon Peters out of Illinois. Another guy that won in a tough situation, not ideal situation, led Lovie Smith's Illinois Fighting Illini to a Red Box Bowl against Chase Garbers, had that epic comeback against Michigan State that year. Just a guy that can throw the ball around if needed. Didn't really do it much in Brett Bielema's offense because, it's Brett Bielema. We all know Monte Ball and all that, But he went 7 to 15, 112 yards, showed a really good deep ball, threw a deep touchdown to, I think it was Travell Martin. I forget his name, but a receiver from Washington State in the Hula Bowl. And he threw an 81-yard touchdown pass or 75-yard touchdown pass, excuse me. So, yeah, Brandon Peters will get another look at him. And it's just fitting to see a Big Ten quarterback in the Rose Bowl stadium, even if it's not the Rose Bowl game.
Hey, it's still got the permanent light up sign outside the stadium, right? So it's always the Rose Bowl there. I'll go ahead and move on to my next guy, Julius Chestnut, the running back from Sacred Heart, also a double dipper. The one catch for 3 yards in the Hula Bowl. Omar, I have a new phrase for the pod. Every time Julius Chestnut catches a pass, an angel gets its wings. So make sure to watch out for some receiving yards for Chestnut. Hopefully, would love to see that. Only had 2 on the season. If you can't catch, you can't play. He certainly can play. Now he's just got to catch. So also love that at a recent interview, he likened his game to Leonard Fournette's. Don't know how much Tampa Bay football you've watched this year, Omar, but Leonard Fournette significantly improved his pass catching game of the year, where he became very consistent, unlike how he was in Jacksonville. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing Chestnut, especially, man, I don't care if it swings, if it screens, whatever it is, man, get the ball in his hands and throw it.
Yeah, and Chestnut did have 8 carries for 19 yards, 2 in the Hula Bowl, along with that catch for 3 yards that you're so enamored with. It's funny that you mentioned the can't catch, you can't play, because I was thinking about this when looking at the next running back I want to talk about, and that's Greg Bell at San Diego State. And early on in the season, Greg Bell was looking like such a Heisman candidate. I mean, he was carrying that San Diego State offense. And I put in our notes his first 3 games. His stats looked like this: 21 carries for 161 against New Mexico State. Okay, New Mexico State, that's fine. I mean, it's still a very great performance. 17 carries for 125 yards against Arizona. 33 carries for 119 yards against Utah. I mean, it was just a true workhorse. But the other side of the coin was San Diego State's passing game. That was just atrocious those first 3 games. They went 7 for 20 for 115 yards against New Mexico State. They had a really good game against Arizona, 10 for 15 for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns. 10 for 19, 44 yards against Utah, which I'm amazed they won that game, to be honest, with a passing line like that against the Pac-12 champs. But, college football, what can you say? My point is, it's like defense keyed in on Greg Bell. So, I mean, his stats aren't too impressive. He only had 300-yard games in the Aztecs' final 11 games. But this is a guy that doesn't catch the ball much, had 4 catches for 5 yards. So we'll see if whatever the offense. I forget what teams are which. I just put the players down. But we'll see if the offense in the NFLPA Bowl, whatever offense he's on, gets him out in space, tosses that ball, because he's a great inside runner. He is very quick to the holes, runs aggressively into the holes and cuts back very well, has a great cutback move. But we'll see if they get him out in space, because 4 catches for 5 yards this year, even with the passing offense as inefficient as San Diego State, it's not really going to cut it. So, another guy looking to, show his worth in NFL scheme when Greg Bell.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully all these guys, I'm sure that's going to be a point of emphasis all week during practice as well. So I'm sure there are going to be plenty of pass catching drills and plenty of play calls to make sure to get that. Also with those, you want to see receivers and how they block too in the screen game, right? You definitely want to see that. So it kind of get a double dip a little bit in the scouting department there.
Jackson. I was going to say that's a great segue for the next guy, I guess. So, but yeah, go ahead, Jackson.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go with my next guy, Chase Allen. The listed as a tight end is for the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. He switched to wide receiver for Iowa State in 2020. So I'm not sure. They're obviously going to be working him a lot with tight ends. Wouldn't be surprised if he worked a little bit with the receiver room too as well. This past year, 26 receptions, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, nothing mind blowing. But man, he plays until the end of the whistle. This is definitely a guy that you need to watch Saturday. If he's playing as a slot receiver, he's comfortable lining up at a 3-point stance, which not many slot receivers are. He's a great run blocker for a slot receiver. He's not as athletic as you would hope for a slot receiver. If he's playing as a tight end, he's really athletic. He's a decent run blocker for a tight end, and he's a pretty good vertical threat for a tight end. So a little bit of both. You want him to be great in certain areas and bad in others, and vice versa if he's playing the other position. So I'm really curious where he's going to end up lining up for most of these snaps. And hey, maybe he lines up as a receiver, but tight to the line of scrimmage. Who knows, right? Because that's possible. We've seen it plenty with Cooper Kupp. Iowa State did ask him a lot to get to the second level to block a lot. So a lot of times it was linebackers, it was nickels, it was corners that he was blocking. I just can't picture Chase Allen blocking an NFL defensive lineman personally. That's just me. I don't see him doing that. So I'm curious, and especially in the run game, where is Chase Allen going to be? What's his responsibility? Are they going to use more gap schemes? Are they going to use more zone schemes? I'll be really interested. Chase Allen is who I'm going to have my eyes glued to. Honestly, I'm not lying. So.
Yeah, and I think it's great you brought up Chase Allen, because we all know Charlie Kohler playing the Senior Bowl.
Dude, I was watching. I watched more tape on Chase Allen than anyone else preparing for this, and dude, Charlie Kohler kept flying off of the screen for me. I was like, gosh, this guy's so good. Yeah, man, that was hard to not pay attention to Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, Mackey Award finalist too, and it just shows how deep of a tight end room Iowa State had. I see Allen being an H-back. Just sort of that background, I guess, not really having a hand in the ground. And it depends what the offensive philosophies are, because you looked at the Hula Bowl, they actually brought a fullback, and they originally invited 2 more fullbacks in Xander Horvath and Clint Rakovich, who did not play in that game because they're playing the Shrine Bowl. But again, that kind of shows that offensive philosophy. There's not a single fullback on any roster in the NFLPA Bowl. So we'll probably see Allen a lot in the H-back position. So, interesting there too. I'm excited too to see, because I always like hybrid position guys like that. And again, like you mentioned, blocking and receivers too. My next guy, I have a guy from Navy who actually made the bowl game as a receiver. And we have Michael Cooper, who averaged 18.8 yards per catch in his career. Really good deep threat, big guy, 6'5", 221. So he can block, plays for Navy. Best year, 18 catches, 380 yards for 2 touchdowns. And it's funny you mentioned, I guess, guys that are utility guys that can, line up a tight end, line up a H-back, line up a receiver. I can kind of see Michael Cooper ending up in that spot, because I bought this whiteboard today at the Dollar Tree. So right here, we have a play design. We have a play design that I saw against Air Force right here. So this is a bunch flexbone set right here that Navy ran. And you had Malcolm Perry roll out. My sister drew the smiley faces, so don't judge. But you had Malcolm Perry roll out. And And you had Michael Cooper wheel behind the slot backs, and he was wide open too. So that's a guy that can get into his stance. And he can block. Can he block outside backers? Probably. Can he block linemen in that position? I got one more formation to show you, I guess, Michael Cooper's versatility. And a lot of the sets that Navy ran were essentially double tight sets that I guess Army and Navy ran were essentially double tight sets. So you'd have the two wide receiver set. I'm going to draw this very quickly and very sloppily, but bear with me. So let's see. But again, Cooper, it's interesting. You have a receiver. I guess the scouts like his size, but you had a formation like this pretty much. Double tight flex bone. And essentially the receivers on the edge weren't in 3-point stances. They were, in receiver stances, but they're like inverted diagonally towards the line. So we'll see there too. Obviously, a different scheme than what Navy ran is what they're going to run at the NFLPA Bowl. But I'm excited, honestly, to see Michael Cooper, I guess, fight for some jump balls and even blocking the edge, honestly. Still an Army fan, but we can put that aside for all-star games.
I'm curious. So in all because those are some unique positions for receivers. Did any of them do kind of what FSU did? I don't know if you remember an opening weekend a couple years ago where they had a receiver line up backwards, like the opposite side of the field, just to throw off the defense. Did Navy do any of that? Maybe.
Oh, okay. No, but I forgot to mention too, I guess they did run more conventional sets. Like the past 2 years, the option hasn't been as great. So they run, pistol sets, they run shotgun sets. So there are that. But I guess the concerns are, with a route tree, because a flexbone route tree isn't as robust as I would imagine, isn't as robust as a pro route tree. But we'll see what Michael Cooper does. Good for him representing the service academy. He's one of 3 academy players in this game of the Rose Bowl.
Good enough of a route tree to beat Army. So that's that for you. I'll go ahead and go with my next guy. I'm going to go with a move into the Power 5. Sam Williams, the defensive end from Ole Miss. Man, he has really created a buzz with quick twitch and explosiveness. According to the Draft Network scouting report that I read on there, he's improved his get off greatly in the 2021 season. I looked for this stat. I could not find it. So I'm gonna paraphrase a quote from the Move the Sticks podcast that Daniel Jeremiah talked about with Next Gen Stats and get off time, how they can track your get off time essentially is when both of your shoulder pads cross the line of scrimmage. If you look at the top 5 or 6 get off times in the league right now, all of them are the top 5 or 6 in TFLs right now in his sacks. So it just shows get off time is critical to quarterback pressures, to TFLs, to sacks. And so if you're going to have one trait, I think unanimously everyone would say as a defensive lineman, you need get off, right? And that's what Sam Williams has really improved in his explosiveness. I'm really curious. I don't know if the NFLPA is doing the whole next gen stats thing where they put the chips in the shoulder pads and all that yet, but that'll be awesome to see. And hopefully Williams can really show out, particularly in his get off, because that's his strong suit right now.
Absolutely. I mean, I hope they do, because that's something that's overlooked, I guess. We look at 40 times. I saw a side that, 40 times are important, but they judge that for a lineman. Maybe not the best stat too, but get off time.
They do the 10-yard splits at the combine now. So the 10-yard splits are what's going to be important for the lineman. Yep. You track those.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that. But that's something to watch for sure, I guess, which guys are getting off and get on the edge too, which we looked at a bunch of edge rushers too. And there's something natural about some guys who good get off. So okay. And even me, a guy that, hasn't played a day on the defensive line,
not so much for defensive line or for offensive linemen, but for defensive linemen where you really need that good change of direction. 3-cone drill is awesome for edge rushers because you need to be able to dip under, you need to swim and swat, all that. So the 3-cone drill as well.
Absolutely. Jackson, I know you watch the combine more than I do. For me, it's just watching drills. I think we talked about that off camera last week, but you bring up great points too, I guess, in terms of agility, which I guess we'll see in game, and maybe the drills too. The practices aren't televised for the NFLPA Bowl, but we'll see. For guys like Sam Williams with the get off. For my next guy, I'm going to stay on offense. I'm going to be there for a little. But my next guy, another receiver, Jacquez Ezra. If you watch the FCS spring season, and particularly the playoffs and the title game, you knew this guy burst on the screen, and his highlight reel was so exciting to watch for both Howard and Sam Houston State. Serious deep threat. He's got great speed. He returns kicks, but more important than that, he wins one-on-one battles very well. Great jump ball receiver. Great jump ball receiver, and he makes really acrobatic catches. I mean, there's this one circus catch where it was like a pass interference, and I sent Jackson, I was like, I've never seen this before. I'm so surprised because it bounced twice off the defender, and Ezra just dove and got it. But just a really exciting player too. And a lot of these guys might make their mark as a return man. Because I'm gonna throw a name, Andre Roberts, a guy that of course broke in the league as a receiver, but he's been around. He's very reputable return man. So maybe we'll see a guy like Ezra like that returning kicks, or
Jalen
a guy
Mickens
like
right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. Another one, the guy that's listed as receiver, and Mickens has done a phenomenal job as a I know he was with Tampa, lost the job to Jalen Darden when they drafted him out of North Texas. But man, Mickens has been that return guy for Jacksonville.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the next guy I have is like the same type of guy. You got Montreal Washington, who like Jackson's probably still seeing his nightmares from the Sanford, Florida game when Sanford dropped 52 and Montreal Washington returned to kick 98 yards. It's okay. Jackson got his army shot in. He had 10 catches for 24 yards, in that game. This year he had 14 punt returns for 243 yards. In his junior year in 2019, he averaged 21 yards a punt return, was a first team All-America punt returner. Really exciting. I would assume they would have him returning kicks, and I'm not sure if for punting, if they're gonna actually do punt returns, because the Hula Bowl, it was just down on the spot. You catch the punt, it's down on the spot. If they do punt returns, I would love to see Montreal Washington do some work, honestly. And that Sanford offense, if only they played defense out in Sanford, man, that team would have been so great. They just did not play defense at all. So that's that. I don't know if Jackson wants to take the next guy, because I got a couple linemen before I head over to the defense. So
I'll do one guy if you want to do a couple, and then I'll do my last guy. I've only got two left on here, so I'll go ahead and use one of my last guys. Also, one note with special teams, I really don't understand why the Hula Bowl did that. I hope the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl does it, because honestly, a lot of these guys, they're going to make their living on special teams in the NFL, if only for a few years, right? They're going to be playing a lot of special teams. And of course, you play the position that you're drafted at or signed as UDFA to, but man, in order to stay on the 53 man, you got to play special teams. You got to be a starter on there. So we'll see. Hopefully they can kind of showcase their skills with special teams. I'm going to go with Big Cat Bryant. Not just for the name, it's also for his production out there at UCF. He's an Auburn transfer that will also be playing in the Shrine Bowl, so a double dipper that we have not gotten to yet. 50 tackles, 28 solo, 6 sacks, and 3 passes defended in his last year with UCF. I watched his All-22 versus the 2019 Magical LSU team, where they were on the road in Death Valley. He did really well. He was held on almost every play. There were a few hands to the face that were not called as well by whoever the 76th offensive tackle for LSU was. He played really well, was double teamed. Anytime you wear number 1 as a defensive lineman, you warrant attention, right? So the Draft Network scouting report, I think, summed it up perfectly, though. His game lacks refinement and consistency. So what I'm looking for in this game is consistency and, hopefully refinement. You only get so much in a week of practice, right? But just consistent in effort, consistent pressure. There were a lot of plays. I was like, what rush technique are you looking at? Like, are you crossing the face? Are you bull rush? Because it's just like impossible to tell with that. So really, it's like he changed his mind, just kind of did almost whatever he felt like on there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Brian can do. It's not necessarily a knock at him, right? I'm really trying to, I hope that he can be more refined and, like I said, consistent. That's all I'm looking for with that, with Big Cat Bryant, not to be confused with Barstool Big Cat.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because you mentioned last time we did the Hula Bowl preview about the coaching, getting the coaching in, and how that helps so much. Maybe that refinement's there, just spending time with like those NFL veterans that will help out and know what it takes at the next level too. So again, that's just another huge benefit of these games. I guess staying on the line side of the ball, but on the other side, I have 2 linemen. I have Sage Doxtatter out of New Mexico State. He was drafted already for the CFL. So he was going to give, his NFL prospects a try, and then, maybe go up north, because he's naturally Canadian, but he played for New Mexico State. Right now, he was the last remaining player in that 2017 New Mexico State team to, still be playing. The one that went to the Arizona Bowl. He's 6'6", 330, huge. He bullies edge rushers. Most of his tape is just him bullying like guys smaller than him. And just doing that. Mobility may be a concern for a guy that size, but he looked pretty good on his SEC reel against Kentucky and Alabama. Showed good movement. So we'll just see with Sage Dockstader for New Mexico State. Great size. Another offensive lineman too. We have Andrew Rupcich, the 2019 Heisman Award winner, who threw a touchdown pass. It was like a 50-yard touchdown pass and a double pass. Great for him there. Good footwork and size from his tape. Good footwork and for his size and good size as well. We'll see what he does too, because Culver Stockton NAI is cool, but it's like, it seems like we have so many like linemen from smaller schools. Ollie Marpet from Hobart, guys like that. Quinn Miners from the Denver Broncos too. Like so many. I guess if there's a position to play, it's lineman. If there's a position to play at a small school, it's lineman, because you can't really teach size. So we'll see with Rupcich out there. Pretty excited to see a guy from Culver Stockton from the NAIA play and do his thing. So really, really great to see. And I guess I'll toss in a lineman. We're in the Holy Cross sweatshirt to represent Benton Whitley out of Holy Cross. He had 11 and a half TFLs this year. It really impressed today too. On a Twitter account, it was Scouting Lorenz of NFL Draft Bible. We put him on a list of guys that was really impressive too. So we'll see him on the edge. 6'4", 260, a bit small. Might fit into a 4-3 scheme, but we'll see. Just great to see a good old Holy Cross Crusader play at the Rose Bowl Stadium.
Quick pop quiz. Who is a Division III offensive lineman that was taken in the second round, 2015 draft?
Was that Marpet? Because Marpet had a good Senior Bowl, right?
It was Marpet out of the Hobart and William Smith College.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
sure you've heard of it.
I haven't heard of that one.
Second round. You don't have a T-shirt or anything? Second round pick, and Marpet obviously has played phenomenal for the Buccaneers. I'll go ahead and go with my last guy, a guy that I'm pretty selfish to pick because I watched every snap of him at his previous school. Jackson State outside linebacker James Houston IV. He went from a pretty good linebacker who occasionally stood out at Florida. As a freshman, 26 tackles, sophomore 38, junior 37. Like he was consistently, doing pretty well. And then at Jackson State, he's just turned into a monster, not particularly in the tackling category, but gosh, 4 forced fumbles, 1 interception, and a touchdown. He is just, getting after the quarterback. He is doing strip sacks. He's doing all kinds of stuff. Known for his chippiness a little bit. I remember before the Cotton Bowl in 2020 said Oklahoma is not on our level. Clearly didn't work out. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing James Houston anytime. Once a Gator, always a Gator. Looking forward to seeing Houston. Hey, with these decals that they do and get so creative with, hopefully a little, chrome Jackson State helmet that says, we believe, or I believe, whatever it says on one side, and then that Gator script logo on the left. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll see. The decal trading is always one of the favorite parts of All-Star season. You mentioned Houston, really great sack numbers, or sack and TFL numbers, 20 and a half tackles for loss, I think 16 sacks on the year, 7 forced fumbles. And again, there's like no shortage of great pass rushers too. just to list them off, we got Chauncey Menak out of, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, out of Louisiana, the Real Swamp. 10 and a half sacks, 14 and a half TFLs.
Let's get an actual light up sign instead of spray painted one. Maybe we'll have that conversation.
I'm just saying that to get on your nerves, but 10 and a half sacks, 14 and a half TFLs. Good agility. He's got good contain too. He rushes good, can bull rush pretty well. Aaron Mosby, same thing with a good bull rush, 15 and a half tackles for loss out of Fresno State. We got Clarence Hicks, a guy I couldn't find footage of, but they had 10 and a half sacks, 16 and a half tackles for loss for UTSA on a defense that, where he was overshadowed by Rashad Wisdom. The book on him is he's a bit slow, 4.840, but we'll see. Maybe he's just a football guy. Probably the best pass rusher out of the bunch is Daniel Hardy out of Montana State. His scouting report, which was on his video, I couldn't find where they said that, but above average first step, good bend off the edge, strong enough to shed blockers and win with power, which all of that was true from the reel. 16 sacks, 24 tackles for loss out of Montana State. So yeah, these quarterbacks better be on alert for these pass rushers, because there is some elite pass rushing talent. I'm excited for it, to be honest with you. It seems like there's more elite pass rushing talent in this game than there was in the Hula Bowl. If you just add up all the sacks,
Yeah, pass rushing is definitely a strong suit of this. And it is a pretty deep, not top heavy pass rushing class like we've seen in years past. It's pretty deep. I don't think this has Thibodeau and Hutchinson, okay, I guess that's pretty top heavy. But yeah, there's a lot of guys in this draft that you're gonna see pass rushers taken on D3 on day 3. So yeah, man, no, I'm excited to see all these guys play. And day before conference championship Sunday, which will be awesome to see. So a lot of good football this weekend. And man, it's gonna be so weird having the Shrine Bowl not be the day before the what it would be tomorrow, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it would be like
because the
MLK
Senior Bowl
weekend.
is the day before the Pro Bowl, and Shrine Bowl is going to be that Thursday on the Niflin on Thursday night. So
Yeah, and yeah, I guess before you, I do have a few more guys too, just heading into the
absolutely
backfield
good.
as
Yeah, go
well.
ahead.
Sorry, I mean, I had all day to watch film. That's what happens when you're on leave. All you do is just work out and take your siblings to school when you're on leave. But yeah, I mean, there's a quality group of defensive backs too. We have a Quantrez Knight, well traveled, Maryland, Kent State, UCLA. What an interesting career. Was the defensive MVP for the Frisco Bowl, aka Dustin Crumb's coming out party, where he beat Jordan Love. Gets in the backfield very quick, 10.5 tackles for loss in 2019. And he really carried it on in UCLA with his tape. You can't really say strength of schedule was like a problem when Quantrez Knight delivered in the Pac-12 with those high-powered offenses. Also at safety too, we have Trenton Thompson. I like this guy's tape a lot. Reminded me a lot of Andrew Sendejo, like a really hard hitter where like that's his game. He's great on special teams, has 2 block kicks in his career, 13 pass deflections in his career. Honestly, honestly, a hidden gem. Maybe a guy that starts off in special teams and gets starts in the backfield too. Rounding out the defensive backfield as well, we got Julius Falk for Delta State. And don't let the stats fool you. I mean, this is a JUCO transfer, went to the Statesman out of Mississippi, 9 interceptions, 13 pass deflections, in 2019. So 22 passes defensed. They stopped throwing to him in 2021. I mean, even after the pandemic, when they didn't play, they remembered how good Julius Falk was, and he only had 1 interception and 6 pass breakups. Smart decision by the schools in the I think the Gulf South Conference. He's got good size at 6'1". Something that's good in the corner for jump ball battles. And then you have Samuel Womack out of Toledo. He had 15 pass breakups in both 2019 and 2021. Just a ball hawk too. Sadly couldn't find footage of him, kind of upset about that. And then just to round it out, just a quick blurb. We got some really quality middle linebackers too. If you watch Clemson at all the past 5 years, James Skalski, the linebacker with the neck roll, 87 tackles this year, 4.5 tackles for loss. Malcolm Rodriguez out of Oklahoma State, a bit of a smaller guy, 5'11", 129 tackles. Just a guy that flies the ball. Maybe he'll be a safety. I mean, I have no problem with him being I have no problem seeing him being a special teamer, honestly, at 5'11". You got Jack Gibbons out of Minnesota and Abilene Christian. 92 tackles this year with Minnesota, 4.5 TFLs, 104 tackles and 8.5 TFLs with Abilene Christian in 2019. And then finally you have Jake Hansen, had 10 TFLs in 8 games in 2020, good middle linebacker, but he's had 3 career season-ending injuries. It just seems like the injury bug bites Illinois players too, because if you remember Mike Dudek, very good receiver whose career is just derailed with like knee injury after knee injury. I hope he's doing well today. But yeah, just like a bunch of kind of like remember those guys too, and just guys on defense that could fit in on special teams, somehow, some way. And just, maybe you might see the next Brent Grimes in a guy like Julius Falk, a guy that comes from like a D2 school out of nowhere and just balls out,
Yeah, absolutely. No, that would be awesome to see. There are a lot of middle line, a lot of front 7. We can generalize it to that. A lot of front 7 guys, and that'll be awesome to see. All right. Pick one non-quarterback. We've talked to a lot of guys, so I assume you're going to pull it from this list. One non-quarterback that you just can't wait to watch, that you're going to keep your eyes glued on.
Oh man, actually, this is a great cue because I forgot probably the most important player in this game. We got Zach Harding out of Army, the Army punter. And yeah, exactly. So he's the all-time leader in career punting average for the Black Knights at 44.6 yards per punt. He set a record with 48.2 yards per kick in 2019 on 25 kicks. And if you watch the 2020 Army Navy game, you would know that honestly, like he pretty much set up the offense. Like he was the offense. He had 5 of his 7 punts down inside the 20. Army scored 15 points that game. Their longest drive measured only 28 yards, despite scoring 15 points. So Zach Harding had pretty much a Michael Dixon punt game, a Ruben Anderson punt game. If you were watching in the spring, he had an elite game. I'm excited to see him play a lot too, because really, I mean, you wouldn't think Army is a punting, hey, I guess a punter's mecca, I guess, in terms of recruiting, because they go for it so much. And it is Army too, there's a service obligation, but he hangs the punts well. He's got 31 punts over 50 yards. Almost a third of his punts were over 50 yards. So I'm excited to see what he can do, and represent the Black Knights, the first Black Knight to play an all-star game before Nolan Cockrell plays in the Shrine Bowl.
I'm curious, is he allowed to wear an alternate helmet? Could he maybe get one of those Army Navy helmets instead to wear one of those? That'd be
I'm pretty sure that's what he's going to wear, because it's funny, because I remember watching the East-West Shrine game in it was either 2015. 2015, Larry Dixon, the fullback, he brought out like 4 different helmets, and he was just like alternating helmets like throughout the drive. And it was so great. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure they'll bring out the Army Navy helmet either from this year or last year. I mean, I'm sure it's Zach's preference, but yeah, I mean, that might be the biggest story too. Like, what helmet will Zach Harding wear? Will Zach Harding and Michael Cooper wear? Like, what helmets will they wear?
Nice. I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see that for sure. Hey, hopefully James Houston, maybe he can pull out that matte blue Florida Block F helmet. That'd be pretty sick. So said Jackson State. But hey, we'll see, man. We'll see. So I think I was pretty clear. Chase Allen, the tight end from Iowa State, someone I'm going to be watching a lot when they're passing, and even more when they're running it. So we'll see, man. Yeah, well, I'm excited. Enjoy another great weekend of football. We don't have too many left. And then, hey, once the Super Bowl comes, I think we're both turning our page to the draft. So we'll see, with no spring season.
Yeah, and I'm sorry not to slight our friends in the Wild Blue yonder with the Air Force Academy. I mentioned all three Service Academy representatives. We got Jordan Jackson, a defensive tackle, 6'5", 285 at Air Force. Had 11 tackles for loss. Had 11.5 tackles for loss in 2018. This year, 11 tackles for loss. So, I mean, he's got a good size of defensive tackle. At 280 pounds, maybe he's a 4'3" guy. But, the academies are well represented. And if this game sold tickets, I'm sure a lot of vets would want to see Zach Harding boom some punts, or Michael Cooper outside block on the edge, or Jordan Jefferson rush the or Jordan Jackson, sorry, not the LSU quarterback, Jordan Jackson rush the passer.
Absolutely, man. It'll be awesome. And hey, hopefully the Collegiate Bowl has actual special teams. That would be ideal.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that being a former special teamer in high school, it is a rough and tumble game. So I don't blame the Hula Bowl for their decision. After all, it was fun seeing Tommy Heatherly bomb a 61-yard punt and with no consequences. He didn't outkick his coverage because there was no punt coverage. It was just fun seeing the punters just pretty much have it was almost like a skills competition too. Seeing the punters go back and forth. So maybe it's that. Maybe the punters will get to shine, but we'll see.
Absolutely. And I'm trying to find here on Google, was Jeff Fisher the coach when versus the 49ers they did that really unique rule where you can line up in kickoff formation to kick a field goal? Was that Jeff Fisher?
I think so, yeah.
That'd be the ultimate special teams and football IQ move. That would be awesome. I think it was a preseason game versus I want to say the 49ers, but that
was a regular season game. It was Thursday Night Football. It was a regular season game.
Oh, it was a regular season game. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
And it was the Niners that pulled it off. It was a Phil Dawson. No. Was it? No, not Phil Dawson. Sorry, it was David Akers that kicked it.
Yeah, man, that would be awesome to see that. It'd just be the other team go out there and what the heck are they doing? That'd be great. So
I don't think All-Star games are the place for try hard moves like that. I
don't think so, but that would make it even greater. So.
But yeah, no, I mean, it would be interesting too. I mean, shoot, Jeff Fisher, we're talking about all-time great stashes. I mean, just come and watch the stash, patrol the sidelines.
Hey, that wraps it up for me. Anything else for you, man?
No, I mean, we got 2 more weeks of All-Star games to cover. We have sort of, I guess, 2 podcasts coming out next week, I guess, in terms of the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl, because I mean, those games are just huge games too. And then we have the HBCU Legacy Bowl, which hopefully will link up with HBCU The Yard. Dwayne from The Yard HBCU Sports. Sorry, it's kind of late out here in Mountain Time. Still adjusting, but I mean, it's an exciting time. And then like we get the draft, we're like, I mean, I say skip the combine, honestly, but we have the draft in the spring, but I'm not a combine.
I did not say skip the combines, but that's another conversation for another time.
I just want to play football. I'm a football guy, I mean, enough of the drills. I mean, just reminds you of hot days at practice, I'm a huge scrimmage guy, but it is what it is.
You don't watch the underwear Olympics, unfortunately.
Hey, wow. Who said that? Was that Mel Kiper? Was that a Mel Kiper quote? I've heard that before.
I don't know who that was. But yeah.
I've heard that.
Well, hey, until next time.
Yeah, until next time, keep watching these All-Star games. Enjoy it, and peace, love, and soul, everyone.